Don't fuck up, don't fuck yourself. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Rude Cooking School podcast. I'm your host, John Hauser III, and with me, the person who will never go away is...
Hey, everybody, it's Jeni Peck. I'm back again. You can't stop me. Always.
Never ending, never going away.
Yep. You can't make me.
Makes me happy.
How's it going?
I'm good. I've had a very good week. My birthday was a couple days ago. Father's Day is this weekend.
No, it's all about you. You, John.
This is the way the world should be, Jeni. This is the way the world should be.
What'd you do for your birthday?
My poor wife is just besodden with it's like when you have your birthday a week before Christmas.
Ooh, yeah, that always kind of sucks.
You know what I'm saying? So it's a burden on me because I deserve more.
Yeah.
But it's a burden on her
true.
because she's got a fucking, it's boom back to back weekends of like paying for shit. Last weekend, I went to a seafood place with some friends, and it's just real low key, and just got like a bunch of snow crabs and a lot of shrimp, and then people were just getting stuff and sharing it. And then went over to Crabtown, USA. Oh, the place we went to was called Anne Arundel Seafood. It was really, really good. I recommend it. I think I talked about it. No, I didn't because I wasn't. I don't think I had gone. No, I did. I talked about it a couple weeks ago the day after I went. But
nice.
I went again because I liked it so much from the first time, and the food was really, really good. And then Crabtown, USA is the best. You just go and drink beer and play retro video games from the 1980s. And
yeah, I have to say their retro video games are better than their pinball selection. Because I like pinball over video games, but their selection-wise, the video games. They have friggin' the OG Mike Tyson Punch-Out, which is like, holy shit.
Well, it's not Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. It's just Punch-Out.
Oh.
Like you're saying, it's the OG. It's before it got put on Nintendo and got rebranded.
You're right.
It's just Punch-Out.
Yeah.
And it's fucking great. It's so much fun to play on the cabinet. Yeah.
I'm hearing the punching noises like in my head right now.
Body blow. Yeah, it's so good.
It's like a boink, boink.
I played a bunch of pinball games when I was there. They got a Beatles pinball game that's really nice, and it's a modern one. It's a really new one.
Oh, I don't think I've played that one.
Yeah, it's fun. It's really hard.
Yeah.
And then there's a really fun Foo Fighters one that's also a modern one.
They got some new ones since I haven't been there in quite some time. What's your favorite pinball machine of all time?
Ever?
Yes.
I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called like Twister or something. There was like a spinning thing in the middle that was like made out of sandpaper, and if your ball hit it, it would spin the ball in a completely different direction than it was going before. But it had a lot of those little cages that it rolls around in at the top above the game.
Yeah.
And then you can get like three balls going at once. Yeah, that was really fun. I think it was called Twister or Tornado Alley or something like that. But that's probably my favorite. That Foo Fighters, I put like almost $10 in that thing just this week. Yeah. The Beatles one was a lot of fun too, but it's really hard.
Yeah.
I think the spacing on it's weird. Like at the bottom where the flippers are, I think it's like a couple millimeters too wide. So it's really easy to just lose a ball. But that said, I think the game knows that. So like for the first like 2 minutes that you play, if you lose a ball, it just spits it back out.
Yeah.
That's when you know a game's rigged, when it's like, we know, we're just going to pop it back out.
Yeah, it definitely takes like a long time to get the hang of a game. And like before that, it's really frustrating because you're just feeling it out. I love the old Addams Family.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that a good one?
Yeah, they have that at Crabtown.
Do they?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe that's where I last played it. I feel like I first played it in like Philadelphia or something, and it was a really
It's
fun
possible.
one.
I mean, because that was the 90s when you lived up there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the what's the one where it's like the trolls and the castle, and why am I blanking on it? It used to be at Mount Vernon Stable like forever.
Of a pinball game?
Yeah, a pinball game.
Oh, no idea. Was it branded to like a movie or something?
No, it was
Oh,
a
yeah, I
standalone
don't
on
know.
its own. Why am I blanking? Because I played it for probably a decade, and now I'm blanking. If I stop thinking about it, I'll remember it.
But the way we split that day up was nice because I love Crabtown, but sometimes their food isn't the best.
Yeah, it's just crabs and then a lot of fried shit, right?
Right. So if I'm getting crabs, it's great. But like some of their other stuff, I'm like, I don't know, you know. So having the best of both worlds, like really good food and then really fun pinball games and lots of beer, was fun. On my actual birthday, which was Tuesday, I know Leanna, she stresses about all this shit. So I'm like, let's do something really chill. You don't have to make me dinner. Let's just get some charcuterie shit and go into the park and have a picnic.
Oh.
And that's what we did. And it was amazing. We just, a little bit of brie, a little bit of cheese, a little bit of salami, some
relaxing,
crostini.
people watching in the park.
Yeah, some membrillo and olives, peppers, cornichons. Like it was a really nice spread.
Yeah.
Baguette, toasted. Yeah. Crosby and I had a ball and a frisbee and threw shit around and
nice.
Bottle of Prosecco. It was very, very nice. It was very relaxing. It was definitely one of those things that when I'm dying, that memory will flash in my head. That's how nice it was.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it was one of those things that like Leanna was like, Carls, when you get older, this is the kind of shit you're going to remember.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, yeah, I think so.
Oh,
okay.
That's good that he already appreciates something like that.
Yeah,
all the like birthday dinners and special occasion dinners just kind of meld all together after a while.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Especially when you're people that kind of go out a lot anyway, or, or have in the past. Right. Mm-hmm.
So like this weekend is Father's Day and Lena's like, so what do you want to do? Or I'm like, I don't, like, she's like, well, I can do what I did last year, which is snow crab and lobster and shrimp. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Like maybe get rid of the lobster. I love lobster, but like, I'm not always satisfied with lobster. You know what I mean? Unless it's like a kind of a honking big lobster.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I like grilled lobster. Grilled lobster tail is really good to me. With the shit
I was
ton
gonna
of
say
butter.
I was gonna say I really, really like sous vide lobster.
Oh, yeah. Meh. To be honest,
Maybe
like a really, really good lobster roll like does it for me. Like that
exactly
will make me happy.
That's the key right there.
The buttered roll, like a really good buttered roll. Not like mayonnaise and shit mixed in it. Just buttered, warm lobster on a buttered toasted roll.
Maybe I'll combine the shrimp and the lobster for a shrimp and lobster roll, and then have snow crabs as the salad.
Or the appetizer, or the side dish. Fuck a vegetable.
I don't think I had snow crabs until like 5 or 6 years ago, to be honest with you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just never got them. And then we had a crab feast at work, and one of my coworkers was like, look, I'm bougie. I don't eat those fucking things because they're a pain in the ass. I only eat snow crab. My boss was like, all right, fine. And he got a ton of them. And I was like, all right, let's see what this is all about. And started eating. I was like, oh shit, you actually get full in these things? Oh, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Because you got to eat 8,000 crabs to get full.
You do.
Which is never the point of
the butter. I like drench it in butter.
Vinegar, yeah.
Yeah.
How do you do your crabs? So I always have a setup. I have a little thing of vinegar, thing of butter, and a thing of Old Bay in front of me.
Oh, I do not like butter on my blue crabs. Just never grew up using it. Butter is for lobster for me and vinegar for blue crabs.
Okay.
And I like white vinegar because it's like extra vinegar.
Yes.
Because apple cider vinegar doesn't have enough acid in it. Like I want tart vinegar.
I like cider vinegar better.
Yeah. Or malt vinegar is good because it has a nice
malt
flavor.
vinegar is really good.
Yeah. And then I just dust some of the seasoning from the shell of the crab into my thing of vinegar, and then that's my dip. And,
sure.
Yeah, and if people are wondering, it just like adds a little acidity. I don't necessarily put every piece of crab in there or dip.
No. It's not every time.
It just cuts because like crab meat actually has like a good amount of fat in it, and then it like cuts all the salt and everything from the seasoning, and so like it's almost like a palate cleanser because you're literally just stuffing a bunch of crab protein in your mouth.
Yeah.
And then maybe a side of grilled corn or something.
Corn, yeah.
Yeah, that's my setup.
Yeah, I think maybe I'll go that way. I don't know. But yeah, it's a fun week. Went to an Oriole game last night because we have season tickets and they won. And, it's been a good week.
Yay. That sounds eventful and fun.
That reminds me. So and I don't know if I've told you this story, but I've told it on the podcast in like at least the last month. We went to the Oriole game. Like we got season tickets this year, so we're going to a lot of games. We went like a month or two ago, and it was just me and Leanna. Crosby stayed home because it was like wet and rainy, and he was like, "I'm not up for this shit," because the last 2 times we went was wet and rainy and it sucked.
Yeah,
we were like, fine. Where we sit is right behind the wall that separates the seats and the area that you just walk around the stadium. So we get all the smells from the vendors. And have you ever had Fuzzy's Burgers?
No, I've heard of it though. Yeah.
So Fuzzy's Burgers is right outside, and the smell is intoxicating. So they do onion smash burgers. And
like they call that an Oklahoma burger.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But they do it a little different. But the burger is $20.
Whew.
Yeah. But me and Leanna were just
patty?
like 2.
Okay. That's a little
double
better.
patty with cheese, pickles, burger sauce, lettuce, onion. Well, the onion's already there. But we got one just because we were like, fuck it, we're hungry. Let's see. There's always a long line. There wasn't a long line. And we were like, both took a bite, and both of us were like, holy shit, like it's totally worth $20.
Nice. Yeah.
So last week, there's like, the WTMD, which is a radio station near us, their first Thursday thing. And Fuzzy's had a stand, but it was only $13 or $14 because it wasn't
because it's not at a stadium.
Right. So I got a bunch of them and took them back, and we were all eating them like, oh my God, this is amazing. And their fries were good. So then this weekend I made those smash burgers because I wanted them again.
Oh yeah.
It's
City,
a lot of onion.
Yeah. Wet City does an Oklahoma burger that they have regularly on their menu. Have you been to Wet City?
I have.
Yeah. Great beer selection, and they brew most of their beers. Like, I guess they do a lot of like Scandinavian style beers, a lot of sours, but really solid bar menu. Their wings are always good and interesting. And they do like a classic smash burger and then their Oklahoma smash burger. And it might be one of my favorite restaurant burgers in town, I have to say. That and Royal Blue in our neighborhood. Have you been there yet?
I have, yeah.
Their smash burger is excellent.
I've heard their burger's really good, but
it's really good. And I've had it several times, and then we'll even go for brunch sometimes, and they just add an egg to it, and then it's a brunch burger.
Holy shit.
Which I definitely have done. It's really good.
I like you do, when I get into a thing, I'm like, all right, time to watch all the videos and look at all the recipes on how everybody does these differently. And traditionally an Oklahoma burger is just the 2 patties, the cheese, and the onions, and then whatever condiment you want.
Maybe a sauce.
But, yeah. So the burgers, I was adding burger. I was doing a Fuzzy's burger base. I was just aping theirs. So it was like, and then I also added tomato. So tomato, lettuce, burger sauce, pickles.
Nice. What's in your burger sauce?
It was mustard, mayo, ketchup, garlic powder, onion powder, Worcestershire, relish, and then there was something else.
Nice. Did you say mayonnaise? Do you put mayonnaise?
Yes. Yeah. So, but that was awesome. Like that we just ate that with our fries.
Nice.
Because I made a bunch of tots with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the key was like cutting the onions really thin on a mandolin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, that's the way to do it. So they melt pretty much.
Yeah. So they they kind of steam each other. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was so fucking good. And then I was doing 3-ounce burgers.
Oh yeah, because you smash them and then you double them up, right? Yeah.
Right.
So then it ends up being like an appropriate amount of meat and not like a 1 pound burger.
But it was once you did the shreddis, because you finally slice chiffonade the lettuce, and then you got the onions, which are pretty thick, and then the tomatoes. Like it was a really good ratio of burger to condiments, which is what I was trying to go for. And yeah. Everybody was like just doing the Homer Simpson, like as we were eating it. It was really good. So
sounds tasty.
Is there anything you've made that you want to talk about in the last couple weeks?
Nothing too crazy exciting. I did last night make a Japanese / Korean curry, which I haven't done in a really long time. And I used the instant stuff because it was a weekday and I was feeling lazy. Have you ever had Japanese curry?
The golden curry?
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's so good. If people haven't heard of it, it's Japanese style curry, which was brought to Japan by the British from India. So it was like double
which is so weird.
Bastardized. Like it's not really anything.
It was
like
bastardized
Indian
to
curry.
start with.
Yeah, like double. And the Japanese loved it so much that they really turned it into something of their own, to a point of they have their own Japanese curry powder seasoning that's very specific to their style of curry. And it's usually like a yellow curry. It tends to be a little sweeter. And you can use like the powder and then make your own like curry sauce, but a lot of us do. And like I'm Korean and I grew up with it because of course we're right next to each other and we were colonized by the Japanese for a while. And so we also eat that kind of curry. And they also like you eat it over rice. You can do whatever protein you want. I usually do chicken thighs, and then it usually has potatoes and carrots. I like to do and onions, and I like to do cabbage in there too, which adds like a little
peas sometimes too, right?
I guess so. We never put peas. I didn't grow up putting peas in it, so I don't put peas in it.
That's always on the box.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I guess so. Add a little green veg color, I guess. But you can make your own sauce and with the curry powder. But I grew up doing the packet that has the block in there and it has the roux already mixed in. So
that was okay. Yeah. That was the next thing I was going to say is it's a little more viscous.
Yeah, it's the in stuff because the roux is already in there. So you cook your chicken, you cook your veggies, add water, and so your potatoes and carrots get cooked. And then I like to deglaze with a little like Chinese cooking wine or sake or whatever, or rice wine. I'll try to use chicken stock if I have it on hand. I'll add a dash of soy sauce, and then I'll use the pre-made curry roux blocks that you get in the box. And golden curry there's a ton of brands, but S&B golden curry is the brand to get. That's the best one. Tried them all. That's the standard bearer for sure.
That's normally the one that I get.
Yeah, but
and I haven't had it a lot, but the couple times I've made it, I'm always like, man, this is fucking good.
It's so good. I don't know what it is, but don't expect it to be Indian curry. It is not that.
Right. Yeah. That's the thing. And it's like weirdly like milder too.
It is milder. You
because
can
of
get
course
super
Japanese,
spicy
they're
ones.
like,
yeah.
they're like, let's make it subtle because we are fucking the kings of subtle.
But it's sweet. It definitely tastes like it's like what the Japanese did to Indian curry is like what Americans did to, I don't know, Chinese food. Like it's not it resembles regular real Chinese food, but it's not at all. like so different. So that's like the comparison of Japanese curry to real curry.
So you know where I had that last time? The last time I had it was actually a couple weeks ago because me and Leanna had the night off. Crosby went to like a thing with some friends, and we went on a date night and went to Ni Hao.
Oh yeah,
and they
serve it with that puff bread.
Yes, that fucking giant bubble, which I was like, I've seen it and I didn't know that's what we were ordering.
It's so good.
It's really good, but I was expecting like Christ, what do they call it?
I forget what the bread's called, but it comes with a side of like curried potatoes or something like that.
It's that curry sauce.
Yeah,
with the peas and stuff in it.
Well, that curry is like a Malaysian style curry, or like you'll see a Burmese style curry is kind of tastes like that too. So it's kind of from that region and not necessarily from India, which even though like in that area, that's all kind of influences each other. But there's a Malaysian and Indonesian style curry that's very like that.
But they call it like scallion pancake, I think is what they call it.
Yeah.
And I was like, hell yeah, scallion pancake, let's do it. And then
big puff fried ball of bread.
It's a giant balloon of bread. Yeah. Oh man, you would have fucking been laughing your ass off. So it's us, me and Leanna, and then to the right of us is a table full of gay dudes, and then behind Leanna is a table of some trans kids dating, and then in come these like rich white girls with one of the girls' parents, and the father you instantly see is like, what in the fucking fuck are we doing? Like instantly, he's just like, what the whose America are we in kind of shit. And I'm like, what the fuck? I was like, oh shit. They taught he was at least my age, if not older. They were teaching him how to use chopsticks. And I was like, when's the last time I've seen an adult learn chopsticks? Like, that was crazy. But they were having a blast, and I was like, you know what? But you could tell, like, he had cowboy boots on and shit, big fucking mustache, And I was like, this guy did not expect this night going the way it just did.
Welcome to Baltimore, hon.
Yeah, dude, it was awesome. I was like, fuck yeah. But they look like, they were sitting there when we got that puff thing, and they were all like, what is that? And we were like telling them,
it's Pride Month. Get a little culture.
That's exactly what I said, because it literally was like almost 2 weeks ago. I think it might have been June 1st or something.
Oh, nice.
Happy Pride, y'all. But yeah, that place fucking rocks. Their food's so good.
It's good.
We got the popcorn chicken that we've never had before.
I've never ordered the popcorn chicken. Have you had their eggplant? The eggplant garlic? God, I love that.
Yes. I will never not get the popcorn chicken now.
Oh, okay.
It was unreal. It was so fucking good.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, just enough Szechuan peppercorn to get your like mouth that nummy thing, but not too much. But dude, it was so fucking good.
Nice.
Yeah. So, yeah. I like food is basically what I'm trying to tell you.
Yes, we are in the same boat.
All right, so let's get into the topic, which is cookbooks. The last time you and I talked, we were going to talk about one theme, and then we just got talking about cookbooks and decided that this episode should be about like our favorite cookbooks.
Yes. And we needed a whole We could probably do several episodes on cookbooks. Like this could be a running thing because I know, John, you have a stack as tall as me of cookbooks that you're going to try to get through.
To be fair, that's not a tall stack.
True. I can admit that.
Well, I can indulge my cookbook thing now because, like, last week, I interviewed Jay Balls.
Jay Balls? That's an interesting name.
Jay Rifle. Jay Rifle about his cookbook, which I'm obsessed with right now, called A History of the World in 10 Dinners, which I showed you before we came on.
Yeah, it looks very interesting.
But it's a fun read. Like, there are a couple dishes that I genuinely want to cook out of it, and some of them you're like, there's no fucking way I'm ever, stitching a pig to a turkey. Mm-hmm. But it would be fun, like a big project thing. But it's just a really fun book to read about food and how it,
That's
it kind of connects you to the past.
Yeah. Where I learn something from it, and I learn about the history of what I'm cooking and reading about. Right. And I think that extends to the whole story of just like, are, people from a different country allowed to cook food from another country and things like that, and appropriation. And I think I've learned a lot and like changed my ideas about that. And like what it comes down to it is if you learn about that food and you actually, you can put your own spin on it and influences on it. But before you do that, you have to learn what it was supposed to be and where it came from. And that's why I love books that definitely give you that history and the stories and everything behind the food.
Yeah, and Jay was really, really nice. His co-author is Victoria Flexner, and she's a food historian as well. She's just a food historian from what I've seen from her website. Mm-hmm. He's a chef and a food historian. Like he's done James Beard House dinners.
Nice.
And like he was on fucking Beat Bobby Flay one time. Like, he's a pretty
been around the block.
Yeah. And now he does like catering for professional sports teams and shit. Like
nice.
Yeah, so it's a really fun book. But and in a couple weeks I'm lining it up now. I got a cookbook sent to me that I'm really enjoying reading through because it kind of like I love a focused cookbook, but I also love a cookbook that has a lot of shit in it as long as the recipes are solid. Mm-hmm. And that's how this cookbook that I'm talking about now, that I'm not going to mention because we'll do an episode on it. But like I love cookbooks. I'm like you. Like when I see them, I'm like, ooh, want. Like
yeah. There's definitely like different categories of cookbooks, though. I feel like, and like today, I definitely picked out a couple cookbooks that mostly I pick because I use them and I've referenced them very often. Right. So I pick them, and then I have the group of cookbooks that I don't necessarily cook a lot of recipes out of, but I get a lot of influence, like ideas from. Inspiration and things like that. Mm-hmm. And then I have the cookbooks that are just like fucking odd and cool and like I call them my coffee table cookbooks because they're just, even if you're not interested at all cooking, no intention of cooking anything out of it, they're just really fun to flip through. And and it doesn't necessarily have to be a vintage cookbook or like an oddity or anything like that. It's just something that's really interesting. I consider a lot of restaurant cookbooks those type of cookbooks because they're not those recipes aren't really adapted for the home cook, and it's really just something. It's entertainment. It's just another form of kind of enjoying that restaurant and the culture of it. And
you'll get mine at the end of my list because I have a list of the ones that I actually cook from, and then I got a list of the ones that like I have and I peruse, but I would either never cook out of them or refuse to cook out of them. You know what I mean? Like that kind of shit. So like it's too much work for like one little thing.
Yeah.
Like one dish has like 13 recipes to make that one dish. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That only a high-end restaurant with stages can make. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you go first.
Oh, okay. I'd probably start with the first book that I have learned the most from. Because I have to say, like, I grew up cooking, you know, I didn't go to culinary school. I grew up cooking first, learning from my mom because she's an amazing cook. Mostly grew up cooking Korean food, and then, you know, loved to eat, so learned how to cook other foods from different cookbooks, and then worked in restaurants, and then just got obsessed. I have to say, for the most majority of my time, though, it's like been a lot of internet like research, because like
Yeah.
I was, you know, it's so funny. I follow Padma Lakshmi on Instagram, and she had a post with her daughter, and she was asked, who's like Gen Z or however old she is, and Padma asked her daughter, like, hey, what project or what do you see me doing next? What would you like to see me doing? Blah, blah, blah. And her daughter's like, oh, it'd be cool if you did some acting or like comedy because you're really funny and I think you'd be good at that. And she's like, but for God's sake, no more cookbooks.
Oh, really?
Because she's written a lot of cookbooks.
Oh, yeah.
And been very successful at doing it. And she's a great cook and does it really well. Like, she has that TV show about traveling the U.S. and finding different like cooks who mostly from like immigrant backgrounds or native or and doing storytelling through that. But her daughter was like, yeah, enough with the cookbooks. You know, the no one uses recipes from cookbooks anymore. They get everything online. And like part of me was just like scoffed at it, like, you stupid kids. And then I'm just like, that's right, it's true.
Yeah.
Like, I will do a lot of research when I'm trying to start testing a new recipe or getting obsessed with a new recipe. I will flip through my cookbooks, but a lot of times my recipe comes from an amalgamation of like different cookbooks, different recipes I find online. But I found more and more, it's like, just because it's easier, I get most of my information online now. And a lot of times, like from the good cookbooks that are like well known, their recipes are online that are in the cookbook because they're so well known and popular and successful recipes. So I definitely see that. But going to a book that I have learned from the book specifically and not necessarily online, and I enjoy going back to the book, is Jewish Cooking in America. Can you see?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Jewish Cooking in America by Joan Nathan. This is not a sexy cookbook. There are no pictures. There's, there are a couple black and white pictures. And if people don't know, my wife is Jewish. And, I've been to all the holidays. We've been together for a very long time. And I just like, it's very rare that someone who's like, eaten a lot of food, and like I love all different kinds of food, all different kinds of ethnic foods. I love learning about it. I love trying something new that I never tasted before, and then going and finding information on it. And so I grew up going to Catholic school. Most of my friends were Christian, and so I didn't know anything about Jewish food. So it was like really exciting to be like, all right, what is this all about? What is a Jewish brisket? Why is it different from other styles of briskets? And what is chopped liver and all this stuff? And so to learn, I learned a lot from the family and things like that and her family's recipes. But I was like, I need a book. I need a book to sit down and learn about where this recipe came from, how it evolved and things like that. And I did a little research, and this book came up as like a really good book. And most of the recipes are from like Sephardic and Ashkenazi Jews, like a lot of them who immigrated to New York. So it's like, just like any other cuisine that's very regional, this is a very like New York Jewish style cooking cookbook. And the recipes are great. There's several recipes for brisket, which is like, it's like the turkey of Jewish holidays, where like that's the main protein, centerpiece of a holiday meal. And so like that's where I got the main recipe from, and then also from Lila's grandmother, and then like kind of combined that and then my own technique and things like that, and I'm pretty proud of it. And I make the family brisket now for all the holidays. But
that's awesome. But
the book also gives you a lot of history about, where these recipes came from, and a lot of places in Europe, and where the Jewish people immigrated from and things like that. So I ended up referring to this so much, where I have all these, folded corners and things like that, and it's been well used. And it just has some really good recipes that I didn't that are were unfamiliar to me, but that were also so American in another sense. You know what I mean? But a different
Mm-hmm.
kind of American. Like when I thought of about American food, a lot of times I thought about, Southern food because like I had family in the South and I learned how to cook from my, Southern aunt and a lot of like those influences. And so it was really interesting. And if people don't know who Joan Nathan is, she had a PBS show
I thought
on
I
Jewish
recognized the
cooking.
name.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And she's a food writer, and things like I think her series was Jewish cooking in America. And
Okay.
so yeah, but it's like well written, good history without being dry, and just I reference it a lot.
What's the one recipe in there that, besides the brisket, that you're like, this is my shit? Like, this is my favorite thing to cook out of this thing.
Chopped liver.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. The chopped liver, because also like when I first uh in the beginning I didn't like pate because you had a pate episode and
Mm-hmm.
it was too livery for me.
Mm-hmm.
But then I started eating chopped liver and I liked that, and then it got me into liking pate.
Yeah.
It's like the gateway drug
Yeah. No,
to
totally.
pate because
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of caramelized onions, and there's like half
Schmaltz.
the ratio and schmaltz, and half the ratio is hard boiled eggs, and it's
Mhm.
just yeah, it's really tasty.
Yeah, that's a really smart thing. Like
hmm
if you think pate's not for you,
hmm
make a good chopped liver because it's fucking delicious.
It's so good, and it tends to be a little more aerated, and so
Mhm.
on the palate it's a little bit easier, and there's always a little sugar in there, so there's a little sweetness to it, and
Yeah.
so it's really good. Now the recipe that I really want to try is their gefilte fish recipe, which I
And you've
had
never
it
pulled the
here,
trigger?
and I've
Okay.
never pulled the trigger. Pretty much gefilte fish, guys, is like it's pretty much like a steamed fish dumpling, but then it's
Yeah,
usually
without
served at
the
room
without
temp.
the
Yeah.
yeah, it's just pureed fish balls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that are boiled, right?
Yeah, that are
Yeah.
boiled, and then a lot of times like in our family we just get the jarred kind that's like in
The
the
jellied.
jelly. Yeah. With a ton of friggin' horseradish.
I've
Uh
had really good gefilte fish and I've had
mhm.
really bad gefilte
I
fish.
like it all. I don't mind it.
I had a jarred version one time that I was like, this
Mhm.
is awful. There was a girl I dated in high school. Her mom made it,
Mhm.
and it was the first time I ever had it, and I was like, I gotta impress the parents, so I'm gonna take one for the team and try this. And I tried it, and I was like, oh my god, this is so fucking good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they
I
were
think
very happy that I liked it.
yeah. If you find like a decent jarred one and you still want to like make it a little more palatable, you can like poach it in a little chicken stock again
Mm,
and like refresh it a little bit and
yeah.
get some of that jelly off of it. But yeah, that's probably what I'm going to try. But that's my most in the last several years, that's my most referenced cookbook, I have to say, and I've enjoyed it.
That's
What you say
awesome.
was pretty like that for you is your
It's funny because I was kind of gonna go with that first too, but I want to go back to what you were saying and agree that like mainly now my cookbooks are for pleasure reading
mm-hmm.
and inspiration sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Rarely are they for recipes. I got like 2 or 3 books that I actually use for recipes
Mm-hmm.
just because they're kind of specific and I know they're really tested well.
Yeah.
But which is why that website that we talked about, the CKBK website,
Oh yeah, I started
I
my
really
free
en-
trial. Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy because it's on my phone and I
Mm-hmm.
can look up like a book and then I'm like, okay, I kind of know that author. I think this is probably going to be good. Run through the recipe and go, okay, that looks solid. I'll just use that as a base. But it's
Mm-hmm.
on my phone. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's like being able to go through my library, but library's on your phone kind of
Yeah.
deal. And
No,
that's
it's great.
really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. Jesus, this list is so gigantic. Okay, I'll go with the book. It's not the book that got me started cooking. really. I think maybe, my mother gave me a book when I went to college, and it's one of those Better Homes and Garden books.
Mm-hmm.
I still have it upstairs, and that was like the first cookbook, and it's like your book that you just showed. There's no pictures really.
Yeah,
maybe
was it
some
soft
illustrations. Cover? No, it's a hardcover.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to picture it because I know what book I feel like I know what type of book you're talking about.
And it's just got everything in that fucking thing.
Yeah.
So like I might have used it twice in the years I was in college, but then when I got out and got my own place by myself, me and my girlfriend at the time, I started cooking out of it, and that kind of helped. The Alton Brown cookbooks were really helpful to me when I first started cooking because I loved Good Eats, and it really inspired me to get back into cooking. And the way his recipes were formatted really worked for my brain, where it was like, this stuff's dry, this stuff's wet, this, the way it was organized, it was really fun. And then reading them was interesting because there was like a bunch of science stuff. I don't have those books anymore. I actually gave those books away. But those were really good. But there's a book that kind of changed the way that I thought about food. Give me 1 second. And that book is, you can't see it. It's Jamie at Home.
Oh yeah.
By Jamie Oliver.
Oh, that's a classic.
Yeah, it's funny because let me change my backgrounds here.
It's all
horse shit. There we go. But this book really changed because I was really into cooking, and I was really into high-end cooking, and I was really into fussy cooking. And this book came out, I think maybe in like 2003 or 2004, and he had a show that was the accompaniment to this.
Yeah, I remember.
Or maybe the book was based on the show, one or the other. But he goes, it's broken down seasonally, and everything's really relaxed and really easy, but very simple too.
Yeah, like almost rustic, but very like ingredient, like it's all about fresh ingredients, which I love. Like fine dining has kind of gone more towards that way, where everything is just about really good ingredients, like simple cooking with like effective technique. And I feel like, his influence is a lot more than I think we think about. Yeah, he's a famous TV chef, but I feel like he was one of the first ones that had that, like rustic, simple, but really good cooking.
I think he was smart in realizing that home cooking's not restaurant cooking, and that home cooking can be easy and relaxed.
Yeah.
And also his politics against really shitty children's lunches is really sort of inspiring.
Foods and things like that. Yeah. I think he's worked his whole career, trying to influence that. Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to do an episode on him because he's pretty great. But I'm like looking through this like creamy asparagus soup with poached egg on toast. Like,
that sounds lovely.
Yeah, give that to me all day. I have made this. It's a asparagus and potato tart where you basically use phyllo dough as the base, and then make up mashed potatoes with lots of butter, and then whip egg into it.
Ooh.
And then pour that on top of the phyllo, and then put the asparagus into that.
That's great.
And then bake it. So then the eggs in the mashed potatoes kind of solidify a little bit more and make it like custardy. Yeah. And you just serve it with a little side salad. It's fucking amazing.
Yeah. It's the type of food that ages well. Like it's not trendy. Right. It's not like, when was this written? Like 20 years ago, and it's still like relevant today and not outdated, and still looks delicious.
He's got a recipe in here that is basically take zucchini and swap out your penne pasta and then make a cream sauce. Like, it's a really smart, and I totally ripped that fucking thing off when I was working at the Baltimore Sun and made my own version of that, like for my squash recipes or whatever I was doing. Just like, you don't need penny, just whip it out, like, yeah, totally ripped him off. Because, fuck it. Nobody's going to know. It was 15 years ago now. But yeah, it's a really, really good, and he's got, this is the recipe that changed my life.
The tomato salad?
Tomato salad, where you just get all the kind of different tomatoes that you have, chop them up, salt them, let them sit for a long time, and then throw a bunch of fresh herbs and raw chili, and then just serve it all on a plate with a bunch of burrata and toast. And it's brilliant. Simplicity. It taught me simplicity.
Yes. That's the good stuff.
I recommend getting the book.
Nice. My next one, well, I think we're definitely going to need a second episode, by the way.
I think so too, yeah.
We're already at 45 minutes. But my next cookbook, again, I'm going with a book that I referenced a lot, and something that I loved learning from is The Taste of Country Cooking by Edna Lewis.
Oh, yeah. Great.
Yes.
I know her, yeah.
Yeah, she's famous Southern chef.
I mean, I don't know her,
but... You were old friends from another life.
Yes. Yeah, totally.
She's a famous Southern chef, and she wrote several cookbooks and was a... Where was she a chef at? What was her restaurant? I don't remember. The book is great though because it's broken up into, it's Southern cooking, and it's very it's like Virginia area Southern cooking. And like I said before, when I think of American food, the first thing I think about is Southern cooking, because really like that was it. Had all these influences, but I think it really evolved on its own here by, it started out by the slaves who were brought or forced over here and, had to make do with what they were given and bringing their own influence into it. And there's different influence from all over the country and all over the South and each region. Like, a Louisiana soul food is going to be different from Virginia Southern cooking, and North Carolina Southern cooking, and things like that. So this is very much Virginia Southern cooking. It's very regional, and like before it was, made trendy and things like that they were using local food, seasonal vegetables, wild game, and, taking advantage of what they had in that area and from the land and things like that. And so, there's a lot of, I love cooking Southern food, I was obsessed with finding the best fried chicken recipe I could, and I've been doing it for years, and I still have not decided that I have the best recipe there is, but because I think it's a lifelong journey to find the perfect fried chicken recipe. But I reference her recipe a lot, and then there's just a lot of recipes in here that I think have been changed and evolved throughout the years, so it's really nice to go back to be like, oh, this is what they were cooking,
kind of the original,
kind of like the original versions, or not necessarily the original versions, but like you can just see the evolution of it. Close enough. So I really like seeing that. Obviously, the fried chicken recipe in here is one of my favorites. What's interesting, of course, is this is probably when I references when I really decided I wanted to fry my chicken in fresh lard and not like shortening or some kind of oil. And with lard, I mean, and when you're using like fresh lard, it's the kind of lard that you would also cook like in pies. It's from like the leaf fat that surrounds like leaf lard that surrounds the organ, so it doesn't really taste super porky, so you can even use it in like pie crusts and things like that. And it's just because the texture of it, and I guess I don't know the science behind it, but it gives you a crumb on that crust that's very different from a more tender crust. I think that's really different from just cooking in a type of neutral oil. And this is also what influenced me to do it in a deep cast iron skillet, so it's almost like pan fried in lard. And then also what I didn't realize is until I read this recipe is that then she flavored the lard with salt pork. Okay. Which is like interesting. And one time I I was over visiting friends in Columbus, Ohio, and my friend requested fried chicken for his birthday while we were there. And I'm like, all right, let's go to the grocery store, let's get the ingredients. Of course, they didn't have any fresh lard. Like, it's hard to find fresh lard here in Baltimore, which is like a major city. Why did I call it Baltimore?
I wasn't gonna say it.
Anyway, so like half the time I'm rendering my own lard, like I'm going to the butcher. I mean, like doing really fat or rendering it from back fat or something like that. But I couldn't find any lard. So I was like, all right, I'm going to get a neutral oil, and then I'm going to get a bunch of friggin' pork belly or bacon and find whatever I can. And I rendered that fat into the neutral oil and then
Holy shit.
fried the chicken in it. And so that was like my go around. But this is what this book is, book's recipe is what really made me realize like lard is the way to go. If you want to go all out,
that's cool.
That's the way to do it. But yeah, there's like amazing recipes in here that like I think got lost throughout time. Like she has a wilted lettuce with hot vinegar dressing.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, it's like, and you can use like iceberg lettuce. You blanch it and then you cook it off with some bacon and a pinch of sugar and a dash of white vinegar. And like that's it.
Old school shit, yeah.
Yeah, totally old school. And like the texture of it. And like, I just feel like that just has so many interesting recipes. And not necessarily all of them you would make, but there's so much in here that you would definitely make. Like the biscuit recipe, I definitely like my main recipe was referenced from here. And it's like a classic, you know, it's nothing like crazy or out there, but the ratios and things like that is like, this is how this lady has been making biscuits for many, many, many years. And, you know, there's a reason. Why.
Good place to start, at least. Yeah,
it's a good place to start. But there she has a great watermelon rind pickle recipe, and like this, you know, and like those. Koreans, like we have a watermelon rind kimchi recipe, but like it's nice to see another version of it that has been made for a very, very long time, and it's really simple, but it's like it's killer. And then she has like a lot of wild game recipes in here, which is interesting, which I wouldn't necessarily make, but like. So the cookbook is set up in seasons. So like it's very seasonal. I love that. And it's like set up kind of as a menu. Like there's a Sunday supper menu. There's the Christmas menu. There's a Christmas Day breakfast menu. There's the spring harvest season menu. There's the Sunday revival dinner, you know, after church. And so there's a lot of desserts, lots of pies and things like that in here, which I never used to do. But now that I've started baking a little bit, I've been referring back to and deciding what I'm going to make out of here.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, it's a great book. I just found a coconut layer cake recipe in there that I really want to try to use. And I'm already learning she puts fresh lemon juice in her cake batter. Which I've never heard of. I've heard of like... Yeah. So it's lemon juice and regular milk, I guess, instead of buttermilk. So it's like she's almost making her own buttermilk. But like I know she had access to buttermilk because it's like a very southern recipe. But like this is her recipe, so I'm like I want to try this out because it's different and I haven't read it anywhere else. And like there's a reason why it's in here.
I have old cookbooks where they add vinegar.
Yeah.
Same kind of deal. Like it adds some sort of acidity that I'm sure there's some sort of chemical reaction with something.
Yeah, with like the baking soda and the baking powder and the dairy and all that stuff. But yeah, really good book. If you guys are interested in some like also I feel like these recipes in here, even though they're very old, like have aged well. Like there's nothing in here that I feel like, oh, I don't think that would appeal to the modern palate anymore. I think if you like good food, there's going to be good recipes in here. But again, like I refer to these types of books because it's like, where did this stuff come from? Where did it evolve from? And then it's easier to understand, you know, what flavors you're really reaching for when you are trying to adapt recipes and make them your own and things like that. So also you're not veering too far off and just creating a whole nother fucking cuisine. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
that's why I really love these kinds of cookbooks. All right, what do you got next?
This one's gonna be kind of like an all-encapsulating because I have to put him into the picture here. So, one of my favorite food writers that really got me pumped about cooking when I was younger was Michael Ruhlman.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know who he is.
Mm-hmm.
So he wrote a book called The Making of a Chef, which is all about like he basically went and learned how to cook at the CIA, the Culinary Institute of America,
Mm-hmm.
and wrote about his experience there. And he did The Soul of a Chef, and these are just books, reading books, like just books, and
Mm-hmm.
they're fascinating. But then he came out with a book called Charcuterie, which it was
Yes.
him and Brian Polson, who was his teacher there. He also wrote the French Laundry Cookbook, which is
Oh.
incredible. But the charcuterie book is the one that I cook from the most of his books, probably. Just because I love charcuterie stuff and garde manger stuff, and there's a lot of accessible recipes in that book, but it's fun to read and there's a lot of pickled stuff in there, to offset the charcuterie stuff. There's like, how to make your own Canadian bacon and how to make your own duck prosciutto, which is super duper easy, or preserved eggs and egg yolks and that kind of shit. He's got a book that came out after it is called Salumi, all about making your own Italian dried cured stuff.
Yeah.
And I have that book too, and I've only done like one thing out of there, but it's one of those things that's like, one of these days I'll get to you. He's got a whole book on schmaltz, which is fucking incredible.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to borrow that one from you.
I got it in PDF, so maybe I'll just accidentally send it to you.
All right.
But yeah, the book of schmaltz is fucking brilliant. It's so good. But then he gets really, really smart and starts putting out these ratio books. So he's got a book called Ratio, The Simple Codes Behind the Craft of Cooking. And it's basically you can learn how to cook as long as you just kind of know the ratios. So your vinaigrettes, it's kind of a 3-to-1, then add your other stuff to it, that kind of thing. He's got a cocktail book that's ratio based.
Oh, that is actually genius. I've never heard of this.
Just came out last year. He's got a book on how to braise, how to saute. He's got a book just about eggs. Yeah, and he's got like a book called 20, which I've heard a lot of good stuff about, which is like 20 techniques. It's got 100 recipes, but learn these 20 techniques, you can pretty much cook anything. He breaks down cooking in a way that's really, really smart.
Yeah.
And I
like that ratio idea. That's how I sometimes, when I'm flipping through cookbooks, I'll just reference the ratios, especially like when you're thinking about batters and brines and marinades and things like that. Ratios are really important.
And
so that's fucking genius.
That's what that book leans into a lot, is batters and that kind of stuff. It's really cool. The charcuterie book is so much fun to read and so much fun. There's so much really interesting stuff. If you didn't think you could make your own charcuterie, like it's got fresh sausage recipes that are great. And you don't have to stuff them. You can just make the sausage, right? And then kind of roll it up and let it sit in the fridge for a day, and then cut patties. Like
I remember the first time I opened that book up, and I don't know if it influenced this or if it came at the perfect time when people were actually considering or realizing that they could do this at home and wanting to do this at home, and when people started wanting to have these experimental cooking experiences at home, and and like the scientific side of it, because I think charcuterie can be very scientific, because again, those ratios are really important in there, and how much salt you use and things like that. So that's really interesting. That book is definitely will be in my brain forever. He even has his like the gateway drug into charcuterie, which is like the easiest thing is to do your own your cured duck breast, which is like anybody could do. You can go out and buy a duck breast and do this right now, like in your fridge.
So the way the book is written, it's about salting, smoking, and curing.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all pretty easy. There's, they got some terrines at the back that are really cool.
Mm-hmm.
There's a like a Maryland style seafood sausage recipe that's fucking pretty great.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a classic. Yeah. I feel like there are those, I didn't put any of them on my list, but there are also those like iconic cookbooks, like The Joy of Cooking and the...
Sure.
Yeah.
But I don't use those.
Yeah, I never
have
use
one.
those. I own them.
Yeah, I have a Joy of Cooking. Yeah.
Yeah, and like
I got like one from the 1950s.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Oh yeah, I got La Technique by Jean Papin.
Yeah.
A first run from the 70s because I collect shit like that, but going through it I'm like, would I use it?
These are in my collection, but I've never referenced them ever in my life.
Where are we at? You go for one more and I think we'll cut it there cuz we're at an hour.
So
but,
yeah, we could definitely do 2 or 3 more episodes on this. I feel like if we're going into some different genres, would be fun.
Because I've only done 2. I still have 13 more.
Yeah. So we could do 3 each an episode.
Yeah, that's cool.
So another one that I do reference a lot, I might not use it like it's intended, but and it's a newer one, not that new, but The Food Lab by Kenji Lopez Alt.
Now I can scratch one off my list as well because that was on my list.
It's like the modern day Joy of Cooking, I feel like. But a lot more science in it. And Kenji is so amazing. Like, he used to be the food editor, or was he the food editor at Serious Eats? Was like his big.
Yeah, I think he still works there. Yeah, he's still the editor of the Food Lab. And,
oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and he writes for the New York Times, and he puts out his own books.
Yeah.
If you want to watch him cook, he does like a weekly thing on YouTube.
Oh, his YouTube is awesome.
That makes Leanna sick when she watches it because he puts the camera on his head and he moves around, and she's like, I can't watch it. It makes me seasick.
Yeah. Some of it, not all of the videos are like that though, because there are a lot of videos that he videoed for Serious Eats and the Food Lab and things like that. And his weekly ones are literally just him. He's got like a couple like
static
POV, like point of view, like
he's got a couple POV shots, but he's got a couple static cameras that are just on his cutting board or on his, in another place. But a lot of it comes now. He's doing the glasses, those the
Ray-Ban,
the Ray-Bans with the camera in them.
Oh God!
And I'm
crazy.
Like, I kind of want to get a pair of those now.
They probably weigh like 10 pounds on your face.
They're heavy. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, this is a classic James Beard Foundation Book Award winner, and this is like the encyclopedia of cooking. Really,
it's a thoughtful cookbook.
Yeah, it's a thoughtful cookbook. It breaks down the science of fucking everything, of baking, of eggs, dairy, of searing and braising and glazing and roasting and things like that. And it has all these references like conversion charts, like the graphs and tables of the results of his experimenting and comparing like how long to brine, a chicken, and like what is more effective, how long to season a steak, like pre-salt a steak, or if you should do it overnight, the difference between 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or an hour, and like you think, that doesn't make a big difference. And he does the experimenting for you, like methodically, like a crazy person. And then you're like, holy shit, it does make a difference. He has found the perfect way and the perfect amount of time to fucking season a steak before you cook it. And it's just like, Jesus Christ, where have you been, man?
It might be the most talked about cookbook on the podcast. We've literally you did a episode just on this cookbook.
Was it on this cookbook or was it on his wok cookbook?
I think you've done one on each.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love this cookbook, and I like the way it's broken down. It's broken down into like eggs and dairy, soups and stews, the meats, the proteins, technique, baking, sauces and things like that, and emulsions, and it's just broken down really well. I kind of want to go through and like, I wish online there was just a breakdown, like a mini pamphlet of all of his tables and things like that, and like conversion charts and stuff, because they're really fascinating. And so, like, just on its own as a reference would be a great reference book for home chefs. And I think we've said this before, but this isn't necessarily, if you don't know how to cook at all, I wouldn't recommend this book as like your first dive into cooking, because it could be overwhelming. Like, this thing is an encyclopedia. It's friggin' huge. How many pages? Let's look up how many pages. It's 958 pages.
It's a big book.
It's a
but also
big
it's a, if I was to recommend a cookbook for a person who doesn't really know how to cook, that wants to learn how to cook, I would also recommend it and just say, don't read any of the nerd shit. Just look at the recipes and follow the recipes.
That's true.
Because
the recipes are pretty amazing in here.
If you wanna learn to cook, it can teach you if you want to read. But if you just want to do recipes that are solid and learn that way by doing, because every step is a step. Everything is broken down perfectly. You know, very meticulous. You know, it's a great book.
Like, if you want to learn how to break down a chicken, he has it step by step in pictures. In this book. But like, what's really interesting about it too, like, say something as simple as roasted cauliflower as a side dish in a recipe. In a lot of recipes or online, it'll be like, roast the cauliflower at 425 for 30 minutes, and it's just like, okay, and it turns out like shit, right? Like a steamed pile of stinky vegetable,
right?
And so he'll teach you like the science of like cooking at a specific temperature at a specific time, why you shouldn't crowd the pan, because then you'll get that Maillard effect and get the roasty toasty top and things like that. And it explains why you have to do it that way to actually get the result that's in that other cookbook you saw at the picture, but when you followed the recipe it didn't turn out that way. And so that's why this is such a good cookbook.
And it can get fussy at times.
It can.
But it's all in service of a really good fucking recipe. Like, do you need to make beef or chicken jello to then chop up and put in your meatballs and or meatloaf? No, you don't. But have you tried it? It's fucking mind-blowing because you get these pockets of goddamn juice in your meatballs or your meatloaf, and it's mind-blowing.
Yep, it's like American soup dumpling.
Yeah. It's crazy how, like, when you do it, you're like, oh my God, I don't know if I'll do this every time I make meatloaf, but if I'm trying to impress somebody and make the best meatloaf, this is the one I'm using.
Yeah. But not every recipe in here is
no,
like
not
that.
at all.
There's some like really simple, great weeknight meal recipes in here.
Yep,
so
absolutely.
I mean, there better be out of 1,000 pages. There's it has a little of everything.
Yeah. All right. I think that's the last one because both of us had that one, so that'd be my third and your third.
Oh, nice. Perfect. Yeah.
I still got a bunch. I got barbecue books. I got taco books. I got how I learned to cook. It's like baby's first Korean food book. Like, I got a bunch of stuff here.
All right.
I got French. I got French books. I got textbooks.
We can even go into our like the reading books, like our favorite fiction books, like, you know, Anthony Bourdain. Like, what's your favorite book of his? Or
well, he's got cookbooks. I got a couple.
Oh, you got the cookbooks.
I got a couple cookbooks by Bourdain on my list, actually. Yeah.
Nice. I
thought you meant just like what we were, like what we were reading fiction wise. I was like, well, I'm reading a bunch of books about fairies and how they're fucking each other, and you know, fairies like to have sex. Apparently, you guys.
I think they do. Yeah. Oh, are you watching reading the rated R fantasy soft porn books?
I have read all of them. Thank you. The Court of Thorn and Roses. Yes, I have. It gets saucy, you guys.
Damn.
Yeah. I was actually talking with this about Evan because his wife read them, and he was like, my wife reads these fucking books. And I was like, yeah, they're awesome. He's like, wait, what? You read them? I'm like, yeah, they're great, dude. Like, the stories are really good.
No.
His wife did. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, I refuse. I'm like, they're good stories. And then they're just interspersed with people like graphically fucking each other. Dude, it gets graphic and you're like, God damn. All right, fine. But, yeah. The Court of Thorn and Roses books are really fun to listen to. Yeah. All right. On that note, thanks for listening to the Rude Cooking School podcast. I promise we won't talk more about the fairy fucking books. Unless you really request it, then, maybe we'll do it. But
John will read some excerpts.
I absolutely will not. That I will not do. That's a bridge too far even for me. But we'll come back. I think this might be a 3-parter.
Yeah.
I mean, this would get us through half a summer, but that's fun because people like to read cookbooks during the summer. So, you just got 5 cookbooks talked about that you can look up and research and maybe go and buy. Go to your local
local library.
Yeah, or go to the library and check it out first before you buy it.
That is a great way to check out cookbooks, guys.
I do that a lot.
Support your local library. Or if you have the Libby app, you can actually find cookbooks on there too.
Yeah. Libby or
check it out.
Or Hoopla, which I also use.
I forgot about Hoopla.
Yeah.
Nice. Does Hoopla have some stuff that Libby doesn't, or is it
Hoopla does have stuff that Libby doesn't, but you don't have to wait on Hoopla.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the sneaky part of Hoopla. Hoopla's awesome.
Okay,
that's where I listen to all those fairy fucking books. But yeah, go to your get them through the library and check them out and look at them first. And if you want to buy them, go to your local bookstore and pay for them. The bookstore needs it. The artists get the fucking
Yeah, thing. It's not that much more expensive than Amazon.
No, it's not.
Guys. It's a couple bucks. Support
and it's fun to go to a bookstore.
It is.
Yeah.
It's nice. Take your kid. Let them. They always have a awesome kid section. Let your kid pick out a book.
Yeah, if you're in the Baltimore area, go to Atomic Books. Friend of the show, Ben Ray. He's
I think
awesome.
Baltimore has had a renaissance of local bookstores. Like
Greedy Reads
has 2 fucking books.
Yeah. Leanna's a big Greedy Reads fan. They have a location down in Fells Point. She loves it.
Yeah, the Remington one is close to us, so that's always easy to get to. But awesome.
Yeah,
wait for part 2, guys.
Yeah, totally. And we'll see you. We'll talk about this in a few weeks. But I will see you next week. And until then, I would like to thank you for listening to the Rude Cooking School podcast. If you can, I would really appreciate if you rate and review us on iTunes, which is still around, which is weird. And oddly still has a lot of weight to their things. But if you're listening to us on Spotify or Amazon podcasts and stuff like that, just give us a star. Give us 5 stars, but subscribe to us. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your coworkers, tell a stranger that's eating. You're like, hey, I see you like food. By the way, that's how you get friends. And we really appreciate it. So for the Rude Cooking School podcast, I'm John Housen III. Don't yuck my yum.
And I'm Jeni Peck. Medieval Madness. That's the pinball game that I forgot.
Hey, you remember
earlier.
You remembered. Hey.
Check it out, you guys. It's a really good
way to
pinball
land
game.
the plane. That's great. See you, everybody.
Bye.